So hello everybody. My name is Dorothy Ibes. I am faculty at William & Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia in the Environment and Sustainability program. I regularly teach courses in science communication, GIS, and ecotherapy. I'm a trained ecotherapy guide, and I also run the Parks and Ecotherapy Research Lab. This is a campus nature lab I run with a number of very talented and passionate students. We do outreach, including Campus Park RX and the Campus Green Space Map and the chair bombing. We also conduct research. We are currently working on 2 new research projects. The first exploring the role of remotely guided nature and forest therapy sessions on place attachment, mental health, and nature connection among Latina participants. This is in collaboration with Kathy Wolf at the University of Washington and Tamberly Conway of Conservation Connections. And this one is funded by the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, founded by Amos Clifford. The second study is a collaboration with the William & Mary Library and an experimental psychology colleague and good friend of mine, evaluating the mental health and productivity potential of nature-rich indoor study and workspaces among college students. I'm also co-writing a book called Ecotherapy with Everyone with Carolyn Schuyler. She is the founder and director of Wild Rock Nature Play Center. If you want any more information about this particular stuff, you can visit us at parksresearchlab.com. I can put that in the chat if anybody's interested in that stuff, because I won't be talking about that really today. So I'm also the co-chair of the Campus Nature RX Network with Don Rakow. So before I go into my presentation, I just want to take a minute to really thank Haven and Stacy for their incredible work coordinating this year's symposium. It is a ton of work. So thank you so much for dedicating your time to that. Also, thanks to all of our fellow presenters, amazing presentations. I'm so inspired. This is one of my favorite events of the year, getting to share ideas and learn so much from everybody in the network. I'm so excited about how this network has grown. There was 4 of us who kind of chatted about this when Don Rakow was writing his book in 2019, and now we have just this huge network. It's just fantastic, and the creativity and the impact is really amazing. So thanks to all of you. Again, if you'd like to keep up with the network, I just want to say you can visit campusnature.com on the homepage. You can subscribe to the monthly newsletter. If you have an active campus nature program, you can complete the membership form also on the homepage, and we will make a simple website for your program where visitors can find out more about your program and contact you directly. We also have links on the website to resources, including Don Rakow's framework for developing of a new Campus Nature RX program. So it's a really great step-by-step guide. Also, Don and Laura Brown's Guide to Anti-Racism in the Outdoors, a link to Don Rakow's book on Campus Nature RX, and many other resources. So, but today I'm actually going to talk about something different, something kind of in the works. It's a new course I developed for this fall called Mapping for Community Nature RX. Next slide, please. So I have to start by giving credit to Allie Ward and her guests on an Ologies podcast from August 2021. In the episode, Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson and Alex Bloomberg present this Venn diagram approach to deciding what you should do in this case to help save the planet. So I loved this idea. Simply put, you make this Venn diagram outlining 1, what is the work that needs doing? 2, what brings you joy? And 3, what are you good at? So you work then with what shows up in the middle. I applied this approach to deciding what to do when I was asked last year to design a new freshman course for environment and sustainability, which integrates GIS and alternative forms of communication. So I asked myself during many, many walks in nature, 1, what would be a valuable and healthy educational experience for William & Mary freshmen? So normally I teach junior and seniors. This is my first year in almost a decade teaching freshmen. Two, what do I enjoy teaching? And number three, what am I good at? Specifically, what are my interests and expertise and strengths? Next slide, please. So the course I came up with was Mapping for Community Nature RX. So the course has 5 main units, all informing and culminating in a course project, which is a public-facing interactive Esri story map that integrates maps, videos, audios, images, and text to share the story of our local green space, support visitation, particularly among underrepresented groups. Next slide, please. So the first couple weeks of class were dedicated to the introduction and background. For this unit, I introduced key themes related to this topic. This integrates human environment geography, urban park planning and design, sustainability, science communication, place-based storytelling, community health, environmental justice, nature and health more broadly, nature RX, ecopsychology, and ecotherapy. I also introduced key theories, including attention restoration theory, attachment theory as applied to our attachment specifically to nature, stress reduction theory, biophilia, and nature deficit disorder. We had lots of pair work and small group discussions about the themes and theories just to get the students thinking and talking and getting to know each other their first semester at William & Mary. I then introduced the course project, and the purpose of the project was to facilitate community health and well-being through nature engagement, primarily by addressing and seeking to overcome barriers to nature engagement, and 2, by increasing visitation to local green space by diverse community members through engaging, inspirational, and supportive multimedia storytelling and what I call curated park experiences. Next slide. So given the audience for our course projects are groups underrepresented in parks and green space, we needed to better understand why there is underrepresentation in the first place. So we had an in-depth deconstruction and discussion of a research paper I recently co-wrote with Don Rakow and Chris Kim from Cornell on the barriers to nature engagement by one of the most underrepresented populations, youth of color. I can actually, if anyone's interested, I will put a link to this in the chat. And if you don't have access to this, feel free to email me. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. So this paper summarizes some of the literature regarding the cognitive, external, psychological, and social benefits of nature engagement or time spent in and around nature. And it highlights that there are inequitable patterns of participation at nature sites, parks, and other green spaces in the U.S. This disparity is particularly striking among youth of color, which limits this population's ability to gain the same benefits of nature engagement as their counterparts. So the purpose of this study was to better understand the barriers to nature engagement by youth of color by examining intensive, semi-structured interviews of community leaders and leaders of nature-oriented organizations. So for the course, student teams were assigned a part of the paper to read and summarize. All the notes were organized in a shared Google Doc. They then shared with the class, and this led into this really rich discussion aimed at gaining a better understanding of the key barriers that face our target population for this semester's course project. Next slide, please. So this is a table of results from the paper that outlines these key barriers organized under the 3 main categories of barriers, so external, psychological, and socioeconomic. So the top 3 barriers to nature engagement by youth of color across categories were found to be lack of accessibility, fear, and social exclusion. So if you're interested in more details on that, please check out that paper. Many students commented that this paper and exercise was very enlightening, introducing concepts and ideas that they had never before considered, and seemed to be very valuable to their understanding of the audience for our projects, namely people who are underrepresented in these places don't feel comfortable for various reasons, and how to successfully engage them with this project. Next slide. So our second unit was study areas, and this is where we began to hone in on our local park spaces. Next slide. So the course project is a team effort. So at this stage, we formed student teams with complementary skills. So the team positions include a study area lead, a field data collection lead, a story map lead, and written communications leads. I had them all sign up for something that they felt they had some kind of strength in, and then put them together in those groups. Each team then selected one of seven local parks to cover for the semester. And at this stage, students conducted secondary data collection for their parks, completing a comprehensive park audit form that I created. They then orally presented their study areas in class using a shared Google Slides presentation. Next slide, please. So the third unit was field data collection. Next slide. So during field data collection, students use the ArcGIS Field Maps app to collect spatial and attribute data, field notes, images, video clips, and audio recordings at their park study sites. Data were collected for a set of significant natural and cultural features, ecotherapy sites, key amenities, trails, and picnic spots. We really honed in on just a select, as opposed to mapping everything. I had them really just select the best things to see at the park. Next slide, please. So we had a practice run on campus to try out field maps. Then the students went on van trips to parks to collect data for their study area. And this is a map showing the GPS data points and lines students collected at the 7 parks. And this is in the ArcGIS online platform. Next slide, please. So this is just an image of students getting ready for their van trip. Next slide. And some images from the field, from the parks they visited. Next, please. And then we just finished recently our cartography in ArcGIS online unit, during which students have been processing their data and creating some basic maps. Next slide. So this is an example working map from one of the groups. These are really first drafts that will be refined and kind of reimagined for the Story Maps platform during the rest of the semester. Next slide. So this week I introduced place-based storytelling. The topics included an overview of place-based storytelling, the various points of view in storytelling, and how we can effectively communicate the stories of our park spaces using a digital storytelling platform. I also led a storytelling ecotherapy exercise that explored the journey of a selected natural item that they brought to class, and having them craft a story about the places it had been. And that was either actual, if they knew, or imagined kind of story of this item, this natural item. Next, please. Oh, actually, next slide. We also reviewed and shared inspirational examples of place-based story maps, such as this one on the Voices of the Grand Canyon. In the coming weeks, students will be integrating their study area research, their field data, their images, videos, and audio clips and maps into a story map of their own, to support visitation to green space by those in our community. Next slide, please. So I wanted to get a sense of how students were responding to this course. It felt like things were going really well, but sometimes you can't tell as the professor what exactly they're feeling, especially when they're freshmen. They tend to not want to give you feedback sometimes. So last week I asked them to fill out an evaluation form sharing what they liked best, if they had suggestions for improvement, and if they would recommend the course to others. And I think some of these results are really valid to what we're doing today. Even in different types of programming. So overall, it was very positive. There was a lot of enthusiasm about the topics and the skills, particularly the theory and practice of ecotherapy, the concept of nature for health and well-being, working with ArcGIS, storytelling about park spaces, and the Story Maps platform. As far as improvements, they wanted more trips to parks, more material kind of on all the topics, and they were hoping to get more time outside. So some of these requests are unfortunately impossible given just the class size, the limited time in the semester, and the need for technology in this course. But these points really reflect a real appreciation for the course themes and the skills, and I'll definitely consider how to incorporate more of these in next year's iteration. So also, I intentionally designed the course with a really solid structure, but room for a bit of flexibility to remain responsive during the semester. I found this flexibility immensely helpful, even though it was a little bit nerve-wracking not to have every detail kind of nailed down, but I found it was really helpful in being able to adjust as needed to accommodate the needs and the interests of the students as we moved along. And so I was able to kind of shuffle things around just a little bit to accommodate that. One thing I was most interested in knowing was if the students would recommend the course to others. I'm happy to report that 100% said yes, that they would, some very enthusiastically. This is like 1/2 of the responses. I love the exclamation points and the smiley faces here.